You know what keeps me up at night as a Raider fan? What if we're wrong about the quarterbacks? What if Aiden O'Connell doesn't develop, just is a fourth rounder? He's just okay. What if the quarterback play isn't enough to win a lot of games or make the playoffs? I mean, I guess the optimist in me would say, well, you just give Aiden another year. You know, you got to progress. He's not gonna win the Super Bowl this year, right? Let's talk about Aiden, because Gardner's Gardner. I think we know what he is. You know, if Aiden does incrementally better, but we only win 7 games, do you just say, okay, one more year, we'll see? Because I've said this before, we have players on the team that are in their prime, but they will start to leave their prime soon. Not Max Crosby, but Devontae Adams in particular, Jacoby Myers, people like that, right? We've got some young talent that we could build around. The problem is, if we are in that sort of limbo, the Derek Carr limbo, where we have a good quarterback, and if Aiden turns out to be Derek Carr, that'd be great. If Derek was on the team last year, we would have made the playoffs. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but Sunglasses Me has to tell you, we want to get to 10,000 subscribers before the new league year. And I know there's people that watch a lot of these videos that haven't subscribed yet, but it's like, think about it. If you're watching all the videos, you seem to be enjoying them, just hit that sub button, man. We're trying to get to 10K before the season starts. It's going to be tough. It's a lofty goal. It's not one that I think people think we can do, but if we do it, we could shock the freaking world. Let's get to 10K before week 1, Raiders, Chargers. Non-Sunglasses Me is going to proceed now. If we're in that limbo of, well, we can't be picking in the top 5 because we're too good. We're going to have to make some moves here. We're going to have to trade up. We're going to have to hope to get the right guy. And I think what's scary is, and look, if you're new to the channel, I'm not a negative person. I've been hyping us up forever. I think Aiden O'Connell can and will develop, okay, into something that could be special. I think he actually is the franchise. And I think the more and more I processed the draft, I was upset that we didn't get Penix. I was a Penix guy from day one. I said I would have taken Penix with the first pick in the draft. I'm happy we stuck with Aiden just because of the injury stuff. I just don't know if Penix can stay healthy. I think he's going to be good for the Falcons one day. Whenever that is. My point is this. It's not negative to plan for all outcomes, right? And we like to be positive here, and we like to be real. You have to be real. If we're wrong about Aiden O'Connell, which could happen, we have to start thinking about how we can get a quarterback in here to win games while we still have players in their prime. Because Max Crosby doesn't want to keep losing, right? Christian Wilkins didn't come here to lose, right? Antonio Pierce, I think irregardless of how many games we win, I think he's the head coach. And I've said this before, would you rather have found your next great head coach or your next great quarterback? Because we saw with people like Herbert, right? Doesn't matter how good you are. If your coach is bad, you really don't have a chance. And look at the Steelers. They don't have a quarterback ever, and they still make the playoffs every year. And I'd rather make the playoffs every year than be the Chargers and have a great quarterback and never make the playoffs. Obviously, I'd like to do both. That's where you get Tom Brady and the Patriots and Bill Belichick. And I'm content with saying I think AP is the guy. I think he is the guy. I think he is the next Mike Tomlin, the next Harbaugh. We have to consider our options in free agency, and I want to talk a little bit about Dak Prescott. And what's so weird is that I feel like I'm living in an alternate reality where I've somehow become a Dak Prescott supporter. And I'm not anti-Dak. I just think he was never as good as people were saying and as good as the money would let you to believe. And to me, people were always taking shots at Derek Carr and hyping up Dak Prescott. And I was like, it's the same quarterback. It's the same exact thing. Where Dak excels athletically, Derek excels with his arm. But they're the same quarterback. And Dak came into a stable franchise for the most part with an owner who, you know, spends money and some good coaching and some really good offensive line play and a great running game and a lot of weapons. And Derek came into absolute chaos, and it was always chaos. I think they're the same exact player. I don't know why there's like this revisionist history of Dak Prescott sucks. He doesn't suck. He's a good quarterback. He's not top 7, but he's top 12. Right? He could go to a Super Bowl. He can win a Super Bowl. I don't know about multiple. And I've seen polls going out, who would you rather have, Aiden O'Connell or Dak Prescott? And so, look, I love Aiden, but if you told me right now, what are we more likely to do this season with Dak Prescott or Aiden O'Connell make the playoffs? I'm taking Dak Prescott to make the playoffs. But I like Aiden because he's younger and he's moldable and he's cheaper, right? So I'm cool with rolling with Aiden. But to sit here and say that Aiden O'Connell is just a better player than Dak Prescott is literally not true. That's a false statement. So if Dak Prescott becomes a free agent and we didn't get the job done and we won 6 games and they were competitive, but it was 6 games, it's something to consider. It just is. And again, I feel like I'm being so negative because I'm a positive person and I don't like talking about this. But I think it's a responsible conversation to have. Would you consider Dak Prescott if Aiden or Gardner turns out to be not it, if they turn out to be bad? Because we're going to need to try something before we just kind of blow this thing up and look for a quarterback. And I'd like to hang on to Devontae and Max and Zamir and all these guys. But if you don't have a quarterback, these guys will only play for that team for so long. And like I said, I believe in Aiden. But what if we're wrong? Here's what I will say about Aiden, though. I think his accuracy might be better than Dak's. Dak isn't the most accurate quarterback in the league. He has a high completion percentage because he doesn't stretch the field a lot. I think Aiden's already more accurate. And don't think I'm backpedaling. I think Dak is the better player, right? I think it's more likely than not that he turns out to be the better player overall in his career. We don't need a lot out of Aiden. We need like Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill went to like multiple AFC championships or something like that. I mean, he was up in the second half against the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl, right? And maybe there's a world in which Aaron Rodgers is like, forget the Jets, and we get Aaron Rodgers one last ride, right? There are people out there, Kirk Cousins in 2 years maybe, because he's not staying there for 4, I can tell you right now. There are people out there, Justin Fields, I don't know. Like, we just have to weigh the options. And this video is not over, but I'd like for you to take a second and comment. What should we do if things don't work out with Aiden O'Connell? Do we draft somebody? I know it's Quentin Ewers, Shedeur Sanders, and Drew Aller, right? Those guys don't really move the needle for me. I'm sure they could be good. I don't know. I haven't really paid too much attention. I've seen Drew Aller play a lot at Penn State. He's got the physical traits, but he's not great. We'll see what happens because Joe Burrow, his second year, was not great at LSU, and then he exploded. I'm hoping because that's my alma mater. See, I'm allergic to negativity. I hate it. But I just want you to put your plans down below. What do you think we should do if these quarterbacks turn out to not be great? And another thing we have to watch for this season is how are we winning these football games? Because there were games that we played with Jimmy Garoppolo, like the Packers game, or the Patriots game, where you just watch it and it's just nothing. Like, I've never watched Raider games where we've won, and I really was like, I didn't care. I did not care. Those games were like, we won in spite of the terrible quarterback play. And that's such a bad feeling because you're like, okay, we're 3-3, but it feels like we're 0-6. It doesn't feel real. So if we make the playoffs at 9-8, right? But the defense won 8 of those games, and Aiden was like, he threw for 2,800 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 14 picks. That's not going to make me feel great either. So it's not about just winning football games. It's about Aiden showing that he's developed, right? Because we can talk about how he's doing with no pads on until the cows come home. And again, I just want to reiterate that I believe in him. I was pounding the drum during the season. I made a video during the season. You can go check that out a few months ago where I said, I don't want to trade up for Jaden Daniels. I wouldn't trade up for Caleb Williams. I wouldn't draft Penix. I think Aiden O'Connell is going to be the starter. And I prepared people for this possibility so people would not be upset. And people thought I was crazy. This was before the season was over. I said there is absolutely a chance that they're going to roll with Aiden. Not just because he's going to develop, but because the options are limited. And I said, as soon as we didn't sign Kirk Cousins, which is something I also suggested, because I think if we had Kirk Cousins, we would probably give the Chiefs a run for their money. And maybe Aiden can be that, and that would be awesome. Aiden O'Connell has every opportunity to show that he's the guy. And this second year is very important, because if you think back to Derek Carr's first year, he showed some flashes, but we got our ass kicked. We didn't have great weapons. We bring in a Crabtree. We drafted Amari Cooper. We got Latavius Murray rocking and rolling. We went 7-9, but he showed glimpses. Everyone remember that Steeler game where he threw 4 touchdowns, right? Before Antonio Brown went off in the last 2 seconds and we lost. He threw that 4th one to Michael Crabtree with like a minute to go. It was insane. We saw flashes in the second year, and we need to see those flashes again with Aiden O'Connell. Assuming he wins the job, I think he will. Because if we don't, and he's just getting carried across the finish line, a la Peyton Manning the last year he won the Super Bowl, right? Noodle arm and the fake neck and the whole 9 yards. We need to start considering what we can do. And here's another thing I'd like to ask you guys. Are there people right now, quarterbacks in the league, that are going to be on the trade market somehow that I'm not considering? Like a Kyler Murray? Like that, could that be somebody we can get? I would hate that because I hate Kyler Murray. But give me some out-of-the-box takes on what we could do in case of emergency, Aiden O'Connell not being the guy. Because right now, other than drafting a Ewers, a Sanders, or an Aller, or signing a Dak, or trading for Fields maybe, I don't know what that answer is, and that's the scariest part, right? Maybe we'll wait for Arch Manning. But that's kind of what's keeping me up at night, if I'm being honest with you. I don't think that's going to happen, though. I believe in Aiden. I know most of you guys do. Now you guys come around. And if you haven't come around yet, time's running out because you're going to look like a bandwagon pretty fast. With all that being said, drop likes, drop comments. Please be sure to subscribe. It is free after no charge to you. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.